Um, and that definitely coincides with, I think, confusion too. It's just like wondering like what the heck is going on, like,
Mhm.
or like why is this person acting so irrational or just like being so combative or just not making sense, a lot of the time. But then also wanting to have authority as a parent, to make decisions and, like you were saying before, tell you what to do and how to do it like a parent does.
Mhm.
But then it came to a point where, well, I'm not listening to you because you don't even know what the heck you're talking about, like, half the time.
Mm.
Or you're not somebody I feel like I can look up to right now, because of your vices. So it's like that confusion, that self-doubt. Honestly, there are times where, especially if there's an argument or something, you can even feel like, hatred, which is a terrible thing to feel.
Yeah.
Um, and it can also, you have resentment, and I think I actually went through a phase of apathy too, which I thought was me being healed, but it's really not. It's just kind of like you're putting up a wall and you're just blocking everything out, which is not being healed at all. I think it can look like healing to some people
Mhm.
because it's like things are bouncing off the wall, like if it's not bothering you, but it really is. You're just not letting it show.
Mhm.
So, I just think those were like the different phases of like negative emotions that I had for a long time that brought me to realize, like, okay, healing does need to take place. Or there was like a point where I'm like, you know what, I can't keep arguing. I can't keep, you are my mother, you're in my life. I know you love me. I love you too. You're not intentionally trying to hurt me. So that's, also a factor.
Mhm.
Um, but for whatever reason, when I was younger, it was just like, well, what am I doing wrong? Or why are you doing this to me? Like, kind of thing. So that was, very tough and would cause me to like lash out in different ways. So, there's just the point where it's like, okay, I can't do the arguing. I can't do the fighting. You're my mom. I know you love me. I love you too. So I can't like just X you out of my life. That's not really going to work logistically, probably.
Mhm.
And I don't really want that also at the end of the day. Um, and just like, I have a big close knit family and she's part of it. So it's just like, I want this to work just, for the wholeness and unity of the whole family too. So that, I think, was the point of being like, okay, what am I supposed to do now to like get through this and like come to the other side?
Mm.
Yeah.
It's that in that healing phase,
Mhm.
when you a lot of us are so strong that we power through it, and we don't realize that we allow ourselves to heal.
Right, exactly. Like it just kind of like happened. It didn't just happen because, like I said, it's been years.
Mhm.
But it kind of just happened in the sense that I wasn't consciously like telling myself like I'm in a healing process for this. It was just just being, in my learning, getting older, being more mature. Like I was talking about, those allies you have, that the people that are able to give you a different, side or just listen to you. And when you say things out loud, sometimes, you hear yourself in a different way
Mhm.
than when you're just inside your head, which we do a lot.
Mm.
So sometimes it's good, if you just want to let somebody know, I really just want to vent. Like, can you just listen? And then if you're just talking and you're hearing, the anger in your voice or the sadness or the way you might be talking about, your mom or your parent or that family member, and you're really like, wow, like this is bad. So like this needs to change, because it really, you don't want it to keep going on. So
So it's good to verbalize it. It's
I think so. And that's again why I'm talking about it now. So um yeah, so I think it's great to verbalize it. And also, you have to realize that it's like your responsibility. You have to ask yourself, like, do you want to heal? Because nobody, just the same way you can't heal anybody else,
Mhm.
nobody can heal you, at least not fully. Like, they can maybe assist in the process if you solicit that assistance.
Allow.
But yeah, they're not gonna make you whole and give you peace.
Yeah.
that you can find for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, because being as being coaches, we know that there's people that will approach us and they'll talk about wanting to get through their obstacles.
Exactly.
But
They
yeah,
will, and they feel like you're a safe person to do that with, just because the energy that we're giving off to people, and because, as a coach, you're a good listener, um, which is probably the biggest part of communication. And yeah, so I definitely agree with that.
yeah, we're it's definitely like the first steps. I was just speaking to someone else the before we got on the phone. I was at a friend's house and the
Mm-hmm.
girl heard me speaking, and she was like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I'm a spiritual coach." And she
Mm.
was like, "I think I need some spiritual wellness coaching."
Of course, who doesn't, Marjorie?
And I'm like, listen, lady, almost all of us can really say that we need it. And even the ones that probably have worked on their spirituality would definitely benefit from having someone help direct themselves to really tunnel into being more themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because we always need to, our reflection of who we are will never really be molded without outside entities. So part of being able to become more fluid is that we have to remove that hard shell of a life that we've kind of built for ourselves, and our spirituality is what helps us to be fluid. So if a lot of us feel stuck in these type of environments, because if we're having family conflict, especially at this time in our age, if we're having family conflict, we're having these kind of conflicts in our friendships as well. I
Mm-hmm.
forgot who I was listening to the other day that said that pay attention, that you can step away from your family because you don't want to be around that trauma, but you'll unintentionally step into a group of friends that are exhibiting the same traits. So
Yeah.
that's why it's very important to acknowledge why you truly want to heal yourself and step away.
That's a great point, because you're just, it's kind of like different faces, but the same
Mm-hmm. Because
situation.
it's comfortable.
Right.
It's what.
Exactly. And you might think you healed because you stepped away from the, the original toxic person, let's say, but you just stepped into a whole arena
Mm-hmm.
of kind of like more of that person.
Yes, yes, and you don't know all of their triggers.
Mm.
So it makes it that so then you then that's how we become, stuck in this prison of I can't get away from these conflicts in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely helpful to acknowledge your healing and be open with letting other people know that you healed, because if we don't acknowledge, if we don't listen to each other, we'll never know what we've healed ourselves from. Because you know watching all of these shows and stuff, it's a big message for me, the way that I receive information. And when you think about superheroes, like the show Heroes, and
Mm-hmm.
all of these people all of a sudden just started having powers, and they started healing people out of nowhere, and they don't understand how they're doing it. It's basically what we're doing in real life. We have specific powers and we don't realize that we have them. So we heal people randomly. Sometimes we burn people out because we're over healing them and we don't realize it,
Mm.
because we've healed ourselves so much unintentionally that we don't realize that this is a power that we're harnessing. Our healing is a harnessing power. It's an energy. So we can learn to ignore the positive stuff about ourselves just like we ignore the negative stuff.
Yeah.
So it's empowering, that's why, I started this podcast, and speaking about the healing, because even me myself, I've pushed myself so much in my life. I haven't allowed myself to acknowledge what I've healed from. So that's why it's fun to have other guests come on and give them the open reign to pick something, because they're gonna think about a part in their life, that 95% of us are going to have some type of a relatability to the story.
Right. Yeah. I love that you do that. I mean, honestly, at first it scared me a little bit. And then I was like, okay, now that I get, the point and the reason, and it makes it, I think, more organic as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's beautiful that you are, while your listeners, can be healed from listening to your podcast, your guests that you have, I feel like this process is also
Mm-hmm.
a stepping stone, or like a piece, at least for myself, of the healing process too. So
Yeah, it's like giving everybody their energy back. It's like, here you go.
mhm.
You had this the whole time. You just didn't see it was in your back.
Right. Or, you get nervous, you get scared. Like, do you want to relive certain things,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's something that just doesn't deal with you? It's like, do I want to say something about the other person? They're not here. But it honestly, it just came to the point where, you know what, this is my story. I'm sharing
Mm-hmm.
my story, and my story is always going to have other people in it, because we're all in this world together.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's good to have the platform, and I just hope that anyone listening is really taking, the gems, which you're definitely dropping over there. So
Thank you. Thank you.
hmm
I appreciate it. I know that a lot of people are going to definitely skyrocket themselves, just by allowing themselves to take this time to listen to us, because it's planting seeds. So I know if they don't get it today, you're going to get it when you're in that situation, because it's going to register for you.
right.
So before we wrap it up for the end of the show, is there anything else that you would like to highlight for our listeners, as far as acknowledgement